Hi everyone, bit cold in the garage today, so I'm going to do this indoors. Hopefully I've learnt by a few mistakes I've done using two cameras, and I've got something really interesting for you. It applies to anyone who's a bike owner or a car owner who wants to fit auxiliary equipment like spotlights, cigarette lighters, that's a rare sight these days, USB power supply or just a standard 12-volt power supply, alarms, etc, etc. And it's to do with auxiliary power supply boxes. Stay tuned and we'll get to it. Yeah, so what we're going to talk about is these auxiliary relay boxes, and you've probably heard the name Thunderbox, and basically that's like a little relay with power outputs, but they seem a bit expensive. I've had a look on Google and that, and Thunderboxes can range from 30 to 100 odd pound, depending on what model you get. From a standard Thunderbox that just does a USB output, why I just have that I don't know, to an auxiliary output which helps to set up your devices, your auxiliary devices like fog lamps and heat grips and stuff like that. Yeah, so we're going to have a look at this, because when I saw originally the price of a Thunderbox, I came across an Oxford one, and yeah, the Oxford one was £24.99, I caught 25 quid, and it was a 4-channel auxiliary box. And what we're going to do is, I've got the big camera set up, so we want to see if we can delve into this, but I have found something that's going to be really interesting. So I don't have a Thunderbox to have a look at. From what I've been told, they are very good. One thing I have noticed about the Thunderbox, even though the unit itself seems to be better sealed against the weather, however, the output cable that you power your auxiliaries up are through Vago clips, which don't have a very good IP rating at all. So to me that's no different than having that and an Oxford one, which the IP rating's not that brilliant on that either. However, once you've got it all set up and everything's working, you can do something to mitigate that by maybe putting gaffer tape on it, or other types of tape or insulation on it to help protect it from the weather. So anyway, oh god, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, yeah. So let's get out me Oxford. I'll try and do the best I can, but let's have a nosy at this Oxford. Okay? Okay, so I bought this Oxford last year. Unfortunately, I was going to use it on my newer bike, so I could wire up some fog lights, some other bits and pieces, and I thought it was a nice handy thing to have. So if we just zoom in a little bit more, I hope this doesn't cause any major problems. I'll try and keep it in the camera shot. I do have a view mirror, so hopefully I'll keep it in the camera shot. So the most important thing is my cup of tea. So if I put that on the table and line that up on the table, I know if I'm in this vicinity, you're going to be able to see it in the camera. Hopefully my hands don't get in your ear or anything. Okay, so I bought this, and the picture shows a 4-channel output with a control relay, and it's showing on the box spotlights, heated grips. So that's the actual box. So I hope you can see that okay on the camera. If not, you can zoom in on your phone or your device, what you have. Now, basically shows 4 outputs and this cable here, a little bit of a wiring diagram. So it had this label on, a bit of instructions reading there which you can read, and some of the specs. So I peeled this off, and there's another barcode underneath, which was a bit strange. Anyway, all will be revealed. So let's take it out. So we'll take that out, and inside the box, we'll move that over to one side. And inside the box, we've got a couple of cables. Like bullet connectors, little bullet connectors on the side. I probably wouldn't use them. Just look, I'd probably cut them off anyway. Usually on a motorbike, you can use about 1mm, 1.5mm single cable if you're doing it, wiring it all up yourself normally. So that's what come with that. That there, I think, yeah, that's a sticky pad. So obviously, if you can peel it off, there you are, and it's got a sticky pad on it. Okay, so we'll put that to one side, and we'll look at this. Now this is the Oxford Junction Box, and basically it shows it exactly what it is on the can. Just looking at it very quickly, I'm looking at it and thinking there's a lot of exposed connections here. I mean, once I'm connected up, I'll probably put some insulation tape over the top of that, and then try and find some way of insulating these connections going in. So when you look at the cable, it has the cable, it's got the 2 battery connections. These would go directly onto the battery, and your auxiliary trigger, which is usually often an ignition live. So when you turn the ignition key, it sends a live to the relay in here, which triggers a relay and then puts your battery supply on all auxiliaries. The idea of that is that when your key's not on, there's no power going to any devices. Right, so a closer look. Ring connections aren't brilliant, but probably adequate. The shrink sleeve, I would have put that over the end of there and pulled out and shrinked it on. So we look at this very carefully. You can see there's a little clip there, little clip there. So we're going to open that up. So just put my little thingy out. And what we'll do is we'll just clip that, and we'll unclip that. So look at the lid, look at it round. Yes, pretty simple. Little channels here for the LEDs to shine through. Obviously that tells you they're powered up. I would assume, and I have not tried it yet, but I would assume these LEDs light up if the fuse is okay. I'm hoping, I've not read the instructions because I'm a typical bloke. So here's your auxiliary relay that triggers the battery power to this supply here. Now I'm looking at these and I'm going, so pardon me, but I'm going to have to put my glasses on. And also, see, it's quite small, so I'm going to have you can tell I'm prepared, magnifying glass, so I'm going to hope my head's not getting in the way, but I'm having a good look at the components that are on there. Yeah, not too bad. The relay, I can't see any markings on the relay. However, if we turn the box over, it's got the details on here, and this is a label over the back of there, and all will be revealed very shortly. And stick with us. So it says relay junction box, product code, it's got a number showing the input voltage 12 volts DC, 9 to 16 volt, then it's got the output and it's got maximum 5 amp times 4, so each one of these outputs is 5 amp. Now what that then tells me is if that's 5 amp, you can go to 5 amp for each input. You don't have to, I mean a device that you've got may only draw 2 amps or 3 amps, so you would put a 2 amp fuse in. So 4 5s are 20, so that's telling me that relay is 20 amp. And I do remember reading somewhere, and it does say that the relay is 20 amps, I think it's in the literature, but you can find this out yourself if you've got one of these Oxford boxes. The most important bit is this bit in here. It says made in China. Now, yeah, those that don't know or still live in a daydream world, probably 98% of all your electronic stuff are made in China. So Oxford have got their own little box badged up, and it says made in China on it, okay, which is brilliant. Alright, but what I didn't notice was this label, and I must be honest with you, I've already had a peek, and this is what triggered my interest into something else. So yeah, we can rate up to 5 amp outputs on all the gears, so heated grips probably around about 4 amps, but you wouldn't get a 4 amp fuse, so you'd put a 5 in, and then your fog lamps, it all do. You'd have to calculate out what your running current would be, and then if your running current is 1.5 amps, normally you would go 25% up for the fuse, and unfortunately these type of fuses aren't that close. So if you've got something that's powering at 0.9 amps, you would put a 1 amp fuse in. If you've got something that's powering draws 1.5 amp, you put a 2 amp fuse in. Or I don't think you can get a 1.5 amp fuse, and that would be too close to the bone anyway, so you'd probably find it a bit irritating blowing. So if you've got something that's rated at 3, that draws 3.2 amps, you put a 4 amp fuse in. Likewise, probably heated grips will pull 4 amp, so you put a 5 amp fuse in. Technically it should be about 25% overrated, your fuse, what your draw amp is. Okay, so I'm going to leave this as it is here. I'm going to put it to one side, and now here comes the other bit. So I was trawling on the internet, and I found a junction box. Now remember, the Thunder boxes usually can range, depending on what type, from a USB power supply unit, which is usually about 30 quid, up to over £100 odd for something that does the same job as this. These are £25. So when I was doing some searching originally, I thought, why am I paying £25? Why am I paying £100 and something for a sort of unit that I can pay £25 for? So that's why I bought the Oxford one. Now traditionally I would have used a standard relay, and that would be triggered from an auxiliary output, which would trigger the relay. The relay would have its power inputs similar to these from the battery, and then the output side I would put a larger cable in from the output side, and then I would break into this cable with various other cables but with fuse links. So I would have, say, my sat nav, a power supply, oil feeder, etc., and each one of these would be tapped into the main cable coming out of the relay, and each one of these cables that were tapped in would have their own inline fuse, and I would take them, I would mark them up so I know just by looking at them what they are, where they're going. And those relays that I would use are usually the current passing rate on the contacts inside is usually 30 amp, so that means I could go up to 30 amp and everything. So, not 30 amp, I could, depending on how many connections I would put in, I would divide that up by the 30 amp. So if I had 6 connections, that's 5 amp connector, that's 5 amp outputs on the wall on what I could go to maximum. In reality that doesn't work, because you can reduce your current loadings on different devices are smaller, like your sat nav takes up, I don't even think it takes up 2 amp, but you would just put a 2 amp fuse in. Anyway, so let's put this Oxford one to one side. So I had this Oxford one messing about, and I was trawling on eBay, and I found this quick wiring fuse box. Had a bit of a look at it. Seems very simple. And then as I'm looking at the picture, I'm going, that looks awfully like an Oxford one. So I bought one, and this is about half the price of the Oxford one. And remembering the Oxford one is made in China. So I had a quick look at the box. 12-volt fuse box, a little bit of writing on there showing what comes in it, and it's got some cable ties that you can cable this box to, etc. and etc. You've got some product information here, which is basically the same information that's on the Oxford box. So I open the box up, and straight away the packing of the unit seems to be a lot better. A little baggie in here. And here's a bit of a surprise. It comes with spare fuses, spare 5 amp fuses, which you don't get in the Oxford one. And remember, this is about half the price. So I open this up, and inside we have a couple of these bullet leads, which I probably would never use. These are obviously used so you can connect your device. So they give you 3 of these, and they give you some spare fuses. So already, for something that's about half the price, in fact I think I'll check later, but I think the price was actually less than half price. Sorry, slip of tea. So already we're on the hook, because we've got more connectors and some spare fuses. So let's have a look at the unit itself. So nice little bit of bubble wrapping. Oh, there's another little baggie in here. So in here we've got cable ties, which Oxford don't supply. So you supply your own cable ties, and when we look in here, let's move the main unit out of the way. So already I'm like thinking, wow, this is supplying a lot more gear. So we've got a little sticky pad, which is in the Oxford kit, some more connectors, the cable ties. So we take all this out. So on the bottom here we've got some more fuses, so we'll put them back in there so we don't lose them, and some cable clips. Now the nearest I would describe this is like a different version of what we used to call Scotch clips, where we would put one cable in and you would, this has obviously got two folded sides, whereas Scotch clips only got one sided, where we can connect to a line cable and pick your power supply off. Don't think I'll be using these. Can't see me using these. I'd probably use the actual Scotch Box ones that I know are good, but I won't throw them away because you just never know. So we'll pop them back in there, pop that back in there. So already the little trinkets that they come is more than the Oxford one. And yes, the Oxford one's 25 quid, or if you want to be pedantic, 24.99. So we'll flip that and put this over here. Now we go look at the main device, and there's a little quick reference manual. And as soon as I look at it, I'm going, looks like an Oxford. Okay. We put that to one side as well, and then we take the box out. Now this is the junction box. Again, we have battery power cables, and what I like about these are sliders. You can cut these off and put rings on if you want, and then there's another cable which is just hiding in there, which is the trigger, your auxiliary trigger. So let's take this off here a minute. So when we look at it, and I'm looking at this box and I'm going, okay, let's compare it with the Oxford one. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, the similarity is unbelievable. Yes, this is all highlighted here, it's got Oxford's name on it and everything. Turn around, it's got the same connections. But at the back it's got this little thing on the back that says Junction Box. Everything else to the Oxford one is identical. So then I see this nice little Oxford sticker, peels it off, and voila, just look what's underneath. So this is already telling me that Oxford buy their junction boxes from this company and rebadge them, which is not illegal. It's called free market enterprise. So let's just come on, you bugger. I want to peek in here. Oh, already that is there. Right, so let's have a look inside. So remember, this is the one I got from eBay as well. Said it's made in China, everything. It's not lying about anything. And I'll say 90% of the electrical stuff is made in China anyway, but they're made by different manufacturers. Some are better quality, some aren't. Some make stuff under license. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, this is fucking identical. That's identical. Takes the lid off. and the board on the back slightly darker green, but everything's identical. So I gets me little magnifying glass out, has a look, and from what I can see, everything, I could mix these up and I wouldn't know which one was the Oxford one, apart from that sticker on the back of the box, which I'm going to take off anyway, because all it's telling me is the same information that's on the back of that box. So it's to me blatantly obvious that Oxford buy their boxes, rebadge them and sell them for about 10 quid dearer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you exactly how much that one. I've seen these going for a bit cheaper now, around about 20 quid. I've not bought a 20 quid one because I don't know if they've cut back on the kit or not. But this one, I was so impressed. I bought a couple more because the fucking same box, exactly the same box. So yeah, as I say, I wouldn't buy the Thunderbox one. It's just too expensive, and even though these aren't proper sealed up or anything, we can make it a little bit better by sealing it up a bit more if it's going to be in that position, isn't it? At the end of the day, a bit of tape helps to protect a bit more, but nothing else. So, what is the cost? So if I go into my eBay account, and I hope I can find them now. But I know the Oxford ones, this Oxford one was cost me £24.99. So if I go into my eBay account, and I will tell you what the price of this one is. Right, these are £25. These I bought were £15.98, so about 16 quid for exactly the same box. So it's £9 cheaper. I'm sure if I did a bit more searching, I might find again the exact same box for even less. Anyway, I thought I'd pass that on to you, and then you can make your own decisions. But in the future, I'll be buying these because they're a bit cheaper and for me they're exactly the same box. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and useful. So we're going to end the video, and as I always say, stay safe and be careful out there.